I unknowingly sent a flirty text to my neighbor at 11:47 on a Tuesday night, and by 11:49 she had replied with one sentence that rearranged my entire life. That's the best mistake you ever made. My name is Grant Holloway. I'm 34, a widower of 2 years, and the kind of man who hadn't sent a flirty text to anyone since my wife was alive. The message wasn't meant for my neighbor. It was meant for the woman I'd been dating for 3 months, a kind, careful woman named Nicole who deserved better than what I was giving her. But autocomplete pulled up Naomi B instead of Nicole B, and before my thumb caught the mistake, the text was already sitting in the wrong woman's phone. Naomi Brooks had lived in the house next to mine for almost a year. I knew her name from the mailbox. I knew her laugh from her back porch on summer evenings. I knew the sound of her front door closing at 7:15 every morning because my bedroom window faced her driveway and my life had become quiet enough to notice things like that. But what I didn't know was that she had been noticing me too. I stared at my screen waiting for the polite brush-off, but instead 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, and then her reply landed like a door I didn't know was there swinging open in the dark. That's the best mistake you ever made. I sat up on the couch so fast the blanket slid to the floor. The living room felt suddenly too quiet, the kind of quiet that only exists in houses where one person used to laugh and now nobody does. The lamp on the side table buzzed. The coffee in my mug had gone cold an hour ago. And my phone, the same phone I had been using to half-heartedly text a woman I was about to hurt, was now lit up with a sentence I could not stop reading. I read it 3 times. I checked the name at the top of the thread twice because part of me was sure I had imagined the whole exchange. But the text was real. The name was real. And the woman who had lived 12 feet from my kitchen window for a year had just told me in one sentence that she had been waiting for something I didn't even know I was capable of sending. My hands started to shake, not from fear, from something I hadn't felt in 2 years, something close to being awake. I should have apologized. I should have typed the safe thing, the polite thing, the thing a grieving man tells a kind neighbor when his thumb has betrayed him. I started 3 different versions of an apology. I'm so sorry, that was meant for someone else. Delete. Naomi, I didn't mean to send that. Delete. Please ignore the last message. Delete. Because every time my thumb hovered over send, I heard my dead wife's voice in my head, the last real thing she ever said to me from her hospital bed. Don't you dare go quiet, Grant. Don't you dare hide for the rest of your life. I had been hiding for 2 years. And one wrong text, one tired thumb, one autocomplete mistake at 11:47 on an ordinary Tuesday night had just dragged me out into the open. I set the phone down on my chest face up so I could feel it when she texted again. The ceiling fan turned slowly above me. Somewhere outside, a car door closed, and through the wall that separated my house from hers, I swore I could hear the soft sound of someone laughing into a pillow. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was afraid of what she had said. Because I was afraid of how badly I wanted her to mean it. I woke up at 6:42 the next morning to the sound of her front door closing. For the first time in a year, I didn't roll over and ignore it. I sat up. I listened. I heard her footsteps on the porch, the soft jingle of keys, the low hum of her car warming up in the driveway 12 feet from my bedroom wall. And then slowly I walked to the window and pulled the curtain back just enough to see her. Naomi Brooks was standing beside her car in a long gray coat holding a travel mug, her dark hair tied back in a way that looked like she had decided to be brave today. She glanced up at my house, not at my window, at the whole house, like she was checking whether the man who had sent that text last night was still real in the daylight. Then she got in her car and drove away. I let the curtain fall and exhaled like I had been holding my breath since the funeral. My phone sat on the kitchen counter. I had not opened it since 11:49 the night before. I poured coffee with a hand that wasn't quite steady, and then I made myself sit down at the table where my wife and I used to eat breakfast, and I opened the thread. Her message was still there. That's the best mistake you ever made. And below it, sent at 6:38 that morning, 4 minutes before her front door closed, was a second message I had slept through. I'll be home at 6, porch light will be on. I stared at it for so long the coffee went cold a second time. She wasn't joking. She wasn't letting me off the hook. She wasn't going to pretend it hadn't happened. She had decided in the 12 hours since my thumb betrayed me that this was an invitation, and she was going to wait on her porch tonight to see if I had the courage to walk across the grass and accept it. My chest felt tight in a way it hadn't felt in 2 years, because the worst part wasn't the invitation. The worst part was that I still had to call Nicole. Nicole, who deserved better than a text. Nicole, who had been patient with my long silences, my half-smiles, my Saturday mornings when I disappeared to the cemetery and came back smelling like rain. Nicole, who had told me 3 weeks ago, Grant, I'm not asking you to forget her, I'm just asking you to let me in. And I never had. And the flirty text I tried to send her last night wasn't real affection, it was performance. It was a tired man pretending to be a healing one. Naomi had felt that through the phone. A stranger had read 3 sentences I never meant for her and seen what the woman I was dating couldn't. I picked up the phone, I called Nicole. She answered on the second ring, soft and hopeful, and I said the hardest sentence of my life out loud. Nicole, I have to be honest with you, I've been using you to feel less alone, and you deserve so much more than that. There was a long silence, and then her voice, gentle, almost relieved. I know, Grant, I've known for a while. I closed my eyes, tears came without permission. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be sorry, she said, be honest, with whoever you're being honest for. She hung up first, and I sat in my kitchen with the morning sun on the table and realized that the porch light next door was going to come on at 6, and for the first time since my wife died, I was going to have to decide whether I was a man who hid behind windows or a man who walked across the grass. I stood at my kitchen window at 5:58 that evening and watched her porch light come on. It was a small yellow bulb above a white wooden door, and it looked like the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. The sky over the neighborhood was that soft blue that only happens in early spring, the kind of blue that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath with you. My hands were cold, my throat was dry, and on the kitchen counter behind me my wife's framed photo watched me the way she always did with that small patient smile that used to mean, "Go on, Grant, I'm waiting." I picked up the photo. I held it against my chest for a long moment, and then I whispered the words I had been too afraid to say out loud for 2 years. I'm not leaving you, I'm just not hiding anymore. I set the photo down, I walked out the front door, and I crossed the 12 feet of grass that had separated my life from hers for a year. Naomi was sitting on the top step of her porch in jeans and a soft cream sweater, a mug in her hands, her dark hair down for the first time since I had ever seen her. She looked up when my shoes hit the wood. She didn't smile, she didn't speak. She just waited, the way someone waits when they already know what they are about to hear is going to change everything. I sat down on the step beside her, not touching close enough. I didn't mean to send that text, I said quietly. I know, she said. But I meant every word of it, I just didn't know I meant it until I sent it to you. She turned her face slowly toward mine, her eyes were wet but she wasn't crying. She was something braver than crying, she was listening. My wife died 2 years ago, I said. Her name was Hannah, she was 32, she had cancer that nobody caught in time, and the last thing she ever told me was not to go quiet, and I went quiet anyway, for 2 whole years, Naomi. I went so quiet I forgot what my own voice sounded like, until last night when my thumb slipped and a stranger I had been watching from my window for a year told me I had just made the best mistake of my life. Naomi set her mug down on the step, her hand was shaking a little. I've been watching you too, she whispered. From my kitchen, from my porch, for almost a year, I knew your wife had died because Mrs. Patterson down the street told me on the day I moved in. And I told myself it wasn't my place. I told myself you needed time. I told myself 100 careful things that all meant the same thing, that I was too afraid to knock on a grieving man's door. She looked at me and the porch light caught the side of her face. And then last night at 11:47, a grieving man knocked anyway, with his thumb, by accident. I laughed once, it came out broken. She laughed too and reached for my hand and held it the way you hold something you have been waiting a long time to be allowed to touch. Grant, she said, I don't want to rescue you, I don't want to replace her. I just want to sit on this porch with you tonight and tomorrow night and however many nights it takes for you to remember that you are still allowed to be happy. I couldn't speak, so I just held her hand tighter. We sat there until the sky went dark and the porch light became the only thing left in the world. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't need to. We just sat shoulder to shoulder on the top step while the neighborhood went quiet around us, 2 people who had spent too long behind windows finally sitting on the same side of the glass. A year later, I sold my house. We bought a small one together 3 streets over with a porch big enough for 2 chairs and a yellow bulb above the door that we never turned off. Hannah's photo sits on the bookshelf in the living room. Naomi dusts it every Sunday and tells her thank you every single week for not letting me go quiet for the rest of my life. And sometimes, when we are sitting on that new porch in the evening, Naomi will lean her head on my shoulder and whisper the same 7 words she sent me at 11:47 49 on a Tuesday night 2 years ago. That's the best mistake you ever made. And every time, I whisper back the only true answer I have ever had. It's the best one I'll ever make. If this story moved you, leave a like, subscribe for more stories like this one, and tell me in the comments. Have you ever sent the wrong message to the right person? Have you ever spent years hiding behind a window, waiting for one accident to make you brave? Your story matters. Share it below. I'll see you in the next one.